All right, we're back on sports, and I want to say this now. It's been a fighting weekend, or should I say a fighting week, and I'm not even talking about boxing or UFC. No, y'all been acting a fool all week, haven't y'all? You know what? We'll get into that in a minute, but first, I want to start off with something local. I want to talk about Philadelphia, because, as usual, it seems like I'm the only person who really talks about the neighborhoods and things like that, and you guys and girls said, you want to hear more about it. So, let's get started, and I'm going to start off with gentrification. That's right. Now, on Saturday I was posting pictures of, the neighborhood. I was out in Kensington and people playing football and stuff like that, and I was showing you pictures. And, kids was out there. The neighborhood was out there having fun, right? Well, being down there, let me say this now. I saw something I thought I wouldn't see. Seriously, we've seen it every once in a while, like in Port Richmond, you see it in Northern Liberties, and I'll bring that stuff up too. But in Kensington, I didn't think that I would see it. And what I'm talking about is someone jogging. That's right. Now, I know a lot of you are probably saying, well, it's not that big of a deal. Just hear me out, okay? Hear me out. Jogging. Yes, it's a big deal in Kensington, okay? I'll put it like this. When some hipster guy, all right, with a big beard, and he's got to be maybe 100 pounds, and he's got this tight shirt on, those running pants, and he doesn't have any shorts on over top of the pants. Once again, I don't understand why people do that, okay? Have some decency. But what kills me is the fact that when you're walking, or should say running, jogging into Kensington, and people are like this in Kensington, is that someone jogging? What the hell's going on? What's going on here? And people are left stunned, they're baffled. The reason why this is because if certain parts of Kensington, all right, it's a war zone. And I say this due to the fact that you have people who are constantly on the block, you have people who are dealing drugs, you have people who are shootouts and stuff like that. It's a war zone, all right? And knowing that it's a war zone, the last thing you want to do is say, oh, that's a troubled area, let me run through it for leisure. Like, it's something let's keep it 100 here. Let's use common sense here. It's something you don't do, all right? If it's a severe, dangerous area, of course, if you have friends there or whatever, you go and you see them, you meet them, you take your ass home afterwards, you know what I mean? But other than that, you don't run through and say, oh, yeah, you know what? There's a possibility that someone could get shot today. I'm going to run through that. You know what I mean? Like, people in that neighborhood want the neighborhood to get better, or they want to get out of the neighborhood, either or, okay? But they don't want to just run through it for leisure. You know what I mean? Like, seriously, this is the neighborhood we're talking about where if you stare at somebody too long, it's on. You know what I mean? Like, fuck you looking at? You know what I mean? Like, there's certain things that you just don't do, in bad neighborhoods. There's a specific code that you live by. And to have some hipster running through there, like not a care in the world, as if it was not a big deal, it sends the wrong message, I say. Because, I'll put it like this. We already know that this gentrification thing has gotten way out of hand in the previous couple of years due to the fact that our previous mayor has signed off to do this type of stuff. Now, I'm not saying the new mayor, because he's walking into the bullshit that the last mayor, threw at us, so he's got to try to clean it up as much as possible. But when you see people from the main line taking over Queens Village, when they're taking over, Northern Liberties, when they've come up from Girard Ave and they've taken over, Port Richmond. And I've shown you a video before where they took away the street hockey rink for the kids, you know what I mean, and people to play street hockey, because street hockey's really non-existent, in that area. They took that away so that these guys can play bike polo. Like, that's a problem. Now, we're talking about they're still thinking about building that cycling complex over there past JFK. It's a problem. It's a huge problem. Because, I say it's a problem because, for those who don't know, in 2014, Philadelphia was named the poorest, that's right, number one, the poorest big city in America, 2014. In 2015, they became third, all right? They were in third because two other places beat them out. Of course, Detroit took the number one spot, which is understandable. However, when I was driving over the weekend and I'm listening to the radio, they were saying how in 2016, it's very possible Philadelphia could get that spot again. All right, that they're leaning towards getting number one again. So with all these problems in the city, okay, and people are saying, look, we want our areas better, you know what I mean, and we're trying as much community as possible, but we need the city to help us out. And the city says, okay, we'll help you out. The way we'll make your neighborhood better is if you leave. That's what you're pretty much saying, because you're letting these hipsters come in, and it's insulting, it is. You're letting these hipsters come in, and then all these little pop-up coffee shops and all this other crap that you wouldn't see in this area, which makes no sense. None of it. If anyone has seen New York as of late, they built a mayonnaise store? Do you really need that much mayonnaise? Like, seriously. And if you haven't realized, in Brooklyn, in Bed-Stuy, it's being taken over, gentrification. It makes no sense. None of it. It's happening here in Philadelphia as well. You're taking away activities that the inner city youth is used to, and you're taking them away to, to push towards these mainline hipsters. Now, like I said, the mainline people, they've taken over Queens Village, they've taken over, Northern Liberties, taken over, they're trying to take over Port Richmond, and now they're trying to move into Kensington. When you have these stores pop up, and they're starting to have this type of living pop up, and they're restructuring all these buildings, guess what? Property taxes go up. So the people that lived in that area for so long, they can't afford that anymore. So they have to move out. So if the area is going to get better, you're telling people who lived there, who wanted better change, that they have to leave now. That is absolutely disgusting. It is. It's insulting. I just don't understand it. And for a city to not have any money, because that's all we keep hearing, we don't have the money, we don't have the money. I don't understand where you're getting this money from then, to make all these developments, all these contracts. Like I said, something didn't seem right for a long time here when it came to our mayor. He was doing deals under the table, which made no sense. And now we're starting to see the impact from it. We are. But like I said, why is it sports related? Because, once again, you have to understand that, like I said, when it comes to renovations and basketball courts and football fields and baseball fields, like I said, still not renovated. The only way these things get renovated is if you talk to, private sponsors. The city will not help you. And if the city does throw a little bit of money, for those who have not seen over at Washington, if I need to go walk over, was it 5th, 6th on Washington? If I need to go walk over there, okay, well, after at the gym, I have to go walk over there to record what's going on. They think they renovated it enough. We're the mayor, all right, because this is what he does now. He spent more money on a sign, huge sign saying, I renovated this park. Yes, than the actual park being renovated. I don't get it. And this is from the previous mayor. This is not from the current mayor. Like I said, it almost feels like the current mayor is just neck deep in shit, and he's going to have to do a lot to get, the city back in control. But every time you turn around, all you hear is Center City is getting better. It's starting to look nice. That's Center City. Of course, that's the tourist attraction. What about every other place around Center City? They look horrible. It looks like a mess. And it seems like, it's almost like you only care about, for it to be a city, you only care about Center City and not the rest of the city. And that city has a problem right now. Now, I talked about pop-up restaurants and stuff like that, because for those who don't know, they shut down the gallery, and they're getting ready to, bring in stores. Because remember, the gallery was nothing but stores before, but it's too urban. So what they're doing is, they're bringing stores from up at the main line, that's right, and they're bringing them down here into the gallery. Those chain suburban stores, they're going to be in the gallery now. Not to mention, across the street, where all those places were, Hallmark store and all that stuff, over on Market, guess what? Knocked down. Knocked down, because they're going to bring in better high-end stores for people. Not to mention, high-end stores. You do realize that if you just walk up Walnut Street near Rittenhouse Square, they have all the high-end stores. But now they want to bring them down to the gallery as well. Whoever is the city planner for this, and the way they're spending this money and giving contracts, they need to lose their job, as far as I'm concerned. They need to lose their job. But I will say there is somewhat of a sliver of light at the end of the tunnel, all right? But sad part is, it's a short term. That's what I'm talking about. Philly homeless pop-up restaurant shows up. That's right, a pop-up restaurant. Now, for those who don't know, for a couple years now, they've been doing these pop-up shops and pop-up restaurants, especially in Rittenhouse Square. They had like a One Direction pop-up store, and all these little girls like, oh my God, One Direction. And yeah, they've been having those. But this was an actual pop-up restaurant event for only the homeless, for those who were, who needed food. And of course, the homeless came in and they gave them lobster. They gave them all these, very high-end and rich foods. And I can only imagine how it's going to feel at the end of the day when they finish eating that stuff. But they felt respected. They felt appreciated. These are people who sleep on the streets. For those who don't know, it's been pretty cold here this year. So to see, them sleep on the ground at 10, 20, degree weather with wind chill, it goes to show you that it does help that people care. And the homeless said themselves, I'll leave the link in the info bar, where they said, people here actually care. They were very happy that they were treated like human beings, because as you know, if you're on the street and you try to give a homeless person some food or some money, you can be fined as a citizen for trying to help that homeless person. That's right. So it's really interesting to see that they're having this type of pop-up restaurant. I would like to see more of it, because let's be honest here, All it does is help others. It's not about, we want a cycling stadium. Really? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things where you have to gauge your neighborhood and see what they do the most, what they need the most. And it seems like when it comes to these neighborhoods, people aren't going out there and analyzing what's going on. I think they don't want to be out there to see what's going on. You know what I mean? Because then they probably feel, okay, well, we feel bad now because we're acting like we want this, but they need this. And it priorities, you know what I mean? Anyways, I want to move on. Let's talk sports now, because like I said, I want to tie it into sports. Philadelphia Phillies. That's right. Or should I say, the season that's going to be a roller coaster and a heart attack. You've got to be kidding me, Philadelphia Phillies, that I sat down. I've been watching these games. I'm happy that baseball's back, so I am watching all these Grapefruit League games. But the Phillies are so... I don't want to say bad. I don't want to say just bad, because it's kind of atrocious. But I want to say inconsistent. Because this team is just, you got to be kidding me. I sat down and watched them play the Atlanta Braves. And the Phillies were up 9-3. Okay? 9-3. In the 8th inning. And then you ended up, by the end of the ninth, mind you, you had 2 outs, all right? By the end of the ninth, all you had to do was get 1 out. You gave up 8 runs. 8 runs. That's right. 8 runs. I was salty. I was so salty. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me that you were blowing this game, Phillies. And then, once they let Atlanta, they didn't only tie. No. Atlanta came back and started winning. And then, I didn't expect the Atlanta Braves to do it, but I'm sure Atlanta fans will say, well, you should have expected it. But the Atlanta Braves tanked it. And what happened? The Phillies came back to win the game. With scores and hits like that, this is going to be a very long season. It just is. And a lot of people say, oh, it's going to be exciting. I don't see it as exciting. I see it more as embarrassing. But these young guys, they got to get their due somewhere, right? They got to play. So we will see what happens. I would say that I'm going to watch these games because I watched, Saturday's game, and they got absolutely routed by the Blue Jays. They lost, 9-3 or something like that? And then on Sunday, they played the Yankees, and it looked like they were going to lose that game, and then they came back and won that game. So there's something inconsistency. It's just back and forth, back and forth. I will be going to some games this year. I will say, for anyone who's still questioning on going, go, have fun. Go, and celebrate with your friends and your family, your girlfriend, your wife, whatever, kids or whatever. Go have fun. You know what I mean? Because it's not going to be that serious this year. Just try and take it for what it is. You know what I mean? Anyways, I want to move on. God, Phillies, I don't know, man. Anyways, I want to move on to Eagles fans. That's right. We need to have a talk. And you know what? I've been trying to avoid, I told y'all before, fuck Eagles online fans because of the way they act. But it seems like we got to have this discussion again because once again, you're proving me right. Again. So, as you know, Sam Bradford has been given a 2-year deal, a contract extension for a lot of money, okay? Now, you already know how I feel about Sam Bradford, all right? So, that goes, without saying. However, just because I don't like Sam Bradford, it doesn't mean that all of a sudden I'm going to walk away from the damn team. Are you fucking kidding me? That's all it took for you to walk away from the team. I've told you time and time again. I've been here for so long. The so-called die-hard Eagles fans. I see them all come and go. Every time. You guys, look, let's just check the timeline real quick, all right? Remember, Eagles fans, they left the nest. Remember when Deshaun Jackson was let go? Remember? They left. They was like, oh, we can't do it anymore. We're going to become Redskins fans, right? Okay. Then Doug Peterson was signed, and what happened? People decided, oh, I'm leaving. That's what they did, right? Now you have this with Sam Bradford. You re-sign. Oh, I'm leaving. Oh, wait. We forgot one other. Because when Riley Cooper was let go, you said you were going to leave too. So racist Riley, who didn't do shit last year, is let go. You're shocked and all of a sudden, you're no longer a fan. Look, when people are leaving this fan base because said player is either signed or said coach is either signed or players are leaving, then you were never really a fan to begin with. You were a fan of that player. But because of what happened with Sam Bradford, all right, check out how much of the fan base actually left. Like I've said before, this new Eagles fan base is just a reactionary fan base. Oh my God, somebody signed, let me freak out. It's bullshit. And you know it's bullshit, alright? Because no one really acts that way. And I say this as well, okay? Because for these people who sit here and say, because that's maximum freak out. Oh, they re-signed Bradford? I'm leaving. I'll play this. You soft fucking Eagles fans, when you're acting like that, you would have never, and I mean ever, survived the fucking 90s. You know, never. It's absolutely ridiculous. This is what we are seeing. It is. But you want to know what else is ridiculous? Peyton Manning. That's right. Peyton Manning. Let's talk about Peyton Manning. As we know, he's going to retire. Today will be the day that he announces his retirement. And that's fine. A lot of people want to say Peyton Manning was the best quarterback ever. A lot of people remember Peyton Manning for the last time that, he played within the Super Bowl. That will be the lasting memory, the image of Peyton Manning. You want to know what the lasting image of Peyton Manning is for me? Damn! Damn you, Peyton Manning! Oh my God, why did you do it? That gold chain though, like, why? God damn, Peyton Manning, why? Anyways, I shouldn't even say damn you, Peyton Manning. Damn you, Cam Newton! See what you've done? You've tainted one of the best quarterbacks ever. It's your fault. And everyone who's sitting here following this trend, once again, I have to ask you, would you follow Cam down this path when it comes to getting dressed? Elmer Fudd-ass motherfucker. Get the Arby's hat on. Stop. Just stop. It's just embarrassing. You know what's embarrassing? The Philadelphia 76ers. That's embarrassing. Let me tell you something right now. The Philadelphia 76ers are on what? Their double-digit losing streak or something like that, I believe. So, Philadelphia 76ers, it's starting to fall apart. For those who don't know. Jeremy Grant. Let's talk about him real quick, all right? Jeremy Grant is fined for $10,000 for throwing a water bottle into the stands. Now, also, the article insinuates that, earlier this year, there was rumored that Nerlens Noel had hurt his hand. The reason he hurt his hand is because they were losing so bad that he went and punched a wall. Apparently, this is getting to them. For those who don't know, the Sixers are now 8-55. All right? Yeah. So, your bigs are hurt, which doesn't matter if they're hurt or not, okay? You got Elton Brand out there playing last night. Like, and if that doesn't make things worse, okay? Then, because we talked about this not too long ago, where the Sixers need another point guard to back up Ish Smith. And I told you before that agents won't give their, some of their best point guards to the Sixers because of who they are. Because the front office has pretty much fucked every deal. Because Sam Hinkie, right? Okay. Now, continuing on from that. Understand, because they cannot find a good point guard in the NBA, and none of the guys in the D-League are good enough to play, because we see that on the court every night, right? Okay, the guys in the D-League aren't good enough to play, so what do? The D-League reaches out and signs Baron Davis. Oh, sweet mother of God. People do not understand what's going on, right? Baron Davis, for those who don't understand about this man, all right? A 36-year-old, injury-prone, who's had to take steroids before because of all of his injuries, okay? Injury-prone point guard is going to be up in the Sixers. Granted, not the 76ers just yet, the 87ers, but you should know they signed him to bring him on to get him conditioned so that he can move back up into the NBA. So that will be your backup for Ish Smith. That's your backup right there. Like, you've got to be... This just screams desperation because nobody is willing to deal really with the Sixers. This is something that... It's not getting better anytime soon. You can't tell me we already know the process is dead. But you can't tell me this process of what you're doing is great. I told you before, yes, you need vet leadership when it comes to, to helping the young guys. But you don't have enough vets that can stay healthy. Like I said, who you got? You got Landry, you got Elton Brand, and you got now Baron Davis. Really. And Elton Brand was hurt for a very long time, and, he had to rehab himself, so now he's just getting back there. They're pretty much treating him with kid gloves because the season's already over, so they're just trying to get his minutes up, so maybe that next year he'll be there, you know what I mean? And then you got Baron Davis, who's going to be in the D-League to work his way up. Now, you got to at least get healthy in the know-how, in the now type guys if they're going to have vet leadership, but this is just Sixers, it's a lost cause. It just is. You know what else is a lost cause? The New York Knicks. Let's talk about them. That's right. For those who did not see how their season's been going, this is pretty much just a good example of how the New York Knicks season has been going.
Last touch by Anthony.
Jesus Christ, you poor sons of bitches, Knicks fans. You have it just as bad as we do. Oh, God. No, actually, I think it's a little worse because you actually have all-stars on your team. Oh, my God. It's just, you gotta be like, come on. What is going on here? I don't get it. But you know what? Also, I have to question what the NBA is. What is going on in the NBA? Really? Because for what I've seen over the past week, once again, refs are not calling what it is. Remember when we talked about how you shouldn't have to tell players to not jump on other players' backs? Because remember, it's a flagrant now if you do that. Remember that the memo had to be sent out to players. Well, let's talk about one James Harden who decides he wants to jump on Drew Holiday's back. And here's the thing. Drew Holiday gets the foul.
In crucial situations, he's got to make sure on some of these passes.
James Harden.
He doesn't have.
As you can see, Drew Holiday gets the call for that. James Harden, who jumps on his back, doesn't get a flagrant call. Like, when are you going to start enforcing these rules? You have refs that are on the floor who can see this, all right? I showed you before. Remember how they have the review center. I showed you what it looks like. So you can't miss it. Those big screens, you cannot miss this. Yet, for some reason, the NBA is going to just act like, it's not that big of a deal. You got to be fucking kidding me. Call it for what it is. You don't call any travels. We saw that last week, right? You don't call any travels. You have a guy jump on another guy's back, and you call a foul, and the guy's being jumped on. But I guess the NBA feels as though this is one of those things where people will forget it because the playoffs are coming up, and that's all that matters. It's almost like it's a lost cause. That's what it feels like. You know what else is a lost cause? Flopping. That's right. For those who don't know, since we're still in basketball, Griffin Force Flop of the Week, it doesn't go to the NBA. You would think it would go to the NBA. Nope. Once again, it goes to college. Please tell me, people, how this is a foul. Because you know what? It's not. It's clearly, it's a fucking flop. And the guy should be ashamed of himself.
This is clearly a flop right here.
And that's all well and good, and I only just got a point out.
Don't people get tired of this shit? Seriously, like, come on, man. It gets to a point where it needs to start being called out by officials. Seriously, or by, anyone who's in authority over, like say, because not only does the players look bad, but it also makes the coaching look bad. It makes the actual, the actual program look bad when you see things like that. It does. Okay? Let's move on to more programs. Show you that it looks bad right now. And I want to move on to football overseas. That's right. Chelsea. I am not going to spend much time talking about them because we have a bigger issue at hand here, okay, when it comes to the EPL. We'll talk about it in a minute, okay? Chelsea, you tied with Stoke City. Mind you, you were up most of the game, Stoke City. You should have beat Stoke City. I'm very disappointed that you let Stoke City come back and tie you when you had that game, especially with possession. You had that game beat. I have said before, I said last week about your schedule, how you have a chance to win out pretty much, and then you go and do that. You've got to be, you know what? I'm very disappointed. I want to move on. But like I said, we have some serious issues to talk about when it comes to the EPL and teams trying to get in the Champions League. Let's talk about this, shall we? For those who don't know, and I want to talk about this right now. Relevant Sports Chairman Charlie Stilitano says there are good arguments for a European Super League. This is the man who set up a secret meeting with the 5 richest clubs in EPL. That's right. So he had a meeting with Chelsea. He had a meeting with Manchester United. He had a meeting with Manchester City. He had a meeting with Liverpool and Arsenal. Understand, the reason he is having this meeting is because he's trying to pretty much set up a deal where these teams won't have to play to get in the Champions League. They'll get an automatic buy into it. That's right. And teams like Leicester City or Tottenham, if the season stops right now, Leicester City and Tottenham will go in the Champions League, right? They will. We'll probably see some more too, but that's not the point. The point is, what I'm saying is, they're saying that teams like Leicester City don't deserve a shot at Champions League. And it literally says in the header that Manchester United is more worthy than Leicester City. Did he not see the way Manchester United has been playing as of late? Did anyone see the way West Brom handled them? It's absolutely ridiculous that this type of secret meeting, obviously it's not so secret, it's being reported, right? I'm just saying, you've got to be kidding me that a guy would have this much power. And when you sit here and you say that, well, if we put these 5 teams in, fans will flock to them more. They can make you richer. So they don't need to have a buy-in because of who they are. And the guy says he doesn't want to sound arrogant and say that it's a birthright almost. You know what I mean? That, that they should be in. But these are the 5 richest teams. And you know what? Here's the problem with that. I'm going to go against this. Even though I'm a fan of Chelsea, I'm going to go against this. Because what you're doing right now is taking away fair play from smaller clubs. That's what you're doing. Teams like Leicester City, who have taken their bumps and bruises and made it all the way to the top, should be celebrated, not shunned. You can't sit here and tell me that Manchester United deserves a spot in Champions League over Leicester City the way that these two teams have been playing. There's no way. But you're taking away fairness when it comes to getting in the Champions League because money. It's corrupting. And as far as I'm concerned, this guy, he should be banned for life for trying to corrupt fair play in this league. This is why people of smaller clubs hate big time clubs. This is the exact reason. Because money. You're trying to tell me that money is the only thing that is, that's going to let everyone get in. I don't care how much of a fan base you have. In order to make the EPL, overall, the EPL more popular, what you do is you grow every team's fan base. That's what you do. In the long run, everyone gets more revenue. That's what happens. But if you're just going to sit here and say, these 5 people, it's like the Super League, and this is what they're pushing to, and it's more likely they'll probably get their way, which is kind of sad. I think right now, with this report, fans of EPL, they should be upset. It doesn't matter if it's Leicester City or Tottenham. It doesn't matter. If you're not one of the big 5 teams that's going to get an automatic bye in the Champions League, this is something that needs to be changed. Seriously, people should be upset about this. It doesn't matter a fan of what team. It takes away fair play and hard work. Other teams will say, well, what's the point then? You know what I mean? We got to fight harder to get in while these guys are given an automatic bye because of popularity or money. That's wrong. Absolutely wrong. And I feel as though, listen, the person behind that should definitely be banned for life. It really burns me up to see that there's so many teams that can fight. And, and like I said, you go through hell just to get to where you're at, just to be told you're not wanted here because you don't have enough money. That's wrong. Absolutely wrong. Like I said, every fan, doesn't matter if you're if you're with a big time club or if you're with a smaller club, every fan should be upset by this. They should. It just takes away fair play. And if you're going to do that, like I said, what's the point of other teams trying? You're literally you're handicapping. You're pretty much cutting yourself off at the knees when it comes to the EPL. That's what you're doing. It's wrong. Absolutely wrong. Speaking of things that are absolutely wrong, I do want to talk about the Flyers. Now, as we know, the Flyers are in a race for the playoffs. We know we're 4 points behind Detroit because the Penguins won the other night. So they leapfrogged Detroit. So we're 4 points behind and getting to the wild card chase. Okay? That's not what I want to talk about. The fact that our captain, Claude Giroux, has been snubbed once again from Team Canada is starting to really piss me off.
To the ice now, Claude Giroux has been one of the most consistently productive players in the entire NHL over the past few seasons. But when the preliminary rosters were announced for the World Cup of Hockey Wednesday, the Flyers captain was left answering some familiar questions. John Bork has the story.
I think that it's going to sort itself out, and the Perrys and the Marchands, maybe him, maybe a Giroux. I mean, who knows who's on here at the end, but how do you argue with a group as prestigious as this?
You don't.
Claude Giroux may be the most overlooked superstar in the NHL. The league's leading scorer over the past 5 seasons has been passed over for Team Canada. First the Olympics in Sochi, and now the World Cup of Hockey.
Something I can't really control. I can just control the way I play, and if I don't get the name, I mean, it's not the end of the world. It's not the final team. So I'm not gonna worry about it too much. Just gonna keep playing hockey here.
It's such a lack of respect they would treat Claude Giroux that way, and then they're like, "Yeah, but how can you argue with this lineup that you can't justify that? You leave that man off, there's a problem." Like I said, this isn't the first time they've done it. Now, since this has happened, Ed Snyder has been on a rampage. He has gone off with the Olympic Committee, and he's severely pissed off at the fact that his player, once again, like they said, leading scorer in 5 seasons, is being left off. And of course, Claude is going to take the I don't care route. It's not that big of a deal. I'm just going to keep playing hockey, keep my head down, keep playing hockey, which a hockey player should. But still, give the man his due. What is the problem that you can't do that? That's just wrong. It just is. And it doesn't matter if he was with the Flyers. It doesn't matter if he was a rival team. It doesn't matter if it's a team that I don't care about. When you look at those stats and you see the way he's played, you have to give him his credit. It's that simple. Once again, fairness. That's what it's about. But it seems like they don't care about that. Of course, they're still in. Hopefully, this is not the end of all this issue. As we know, so far they had said, well, it's only preliminary, and then we saw other reports that said, no, this is final. So we will see what happens in the long run. Okay, but right now, it's absolutely ridiculous that Claude Giroux is being left off this team. That's disturbing. It just is. Also, I want to move on. I want to talk about UFC, and it was quite a night for UFC, I'll say. Because, as you know, I'm only going to talk about two fights. As you know, Holly Holm and Miesha Tate. I told y'all before, Miesha Tate is known, is not a person to mess around with. And Miesha Tate showed that, once again, she's not a person to mess around with. Now, since she's beaten Holly Holm, and both fights actually ended in rear naked choke, and I want to talk about that. That's why I'm leaving so much time here. I really want to talk about the ins and outs of a rear naked choke for those who don't know, because there's been some ignorant things that have been said. But she beat Holly Holm, and now everyone's like, well, who does she face? Are we going to see Miesha Tate versus Ronda Rousey? I personally would say, if I was Dana White, if he's smart, I would say you set up Kat Zingano with Miesha Tate. That should be the fight, and that Holly Holm and Ronda Rousey should go for their rematch. I think that's the hurdle that needs to be jumped for Ronda Rousey right now. Because if Holly Holm would have stayed the champion, I would have said, feed Ronda Rousey someone else, let her get her feet wet. But now that she's not the champion, and she's pretty much the hurdle that you have to get over for Miesha Tate, because we've seen Rousey versus Tate twice. All right? We already know. So, it'll be interesting to see if Ronda Rousey can get past Holly Holm again. You know what I mean? Well, I should say again. If she can get past her for the first time. This needs to happen. Let Miesha Tate have her run as champion. She's worked so hard up to this point. She's been undefeated for 2 years. At this point, let her have her run. You know what I mean? Let her have her time. Let's move on also to Conor McGregor versus Nate Diaz. Which is kind of funny because I was very happy to hear that, it's sad to always hear when a person gets injured. Okay? With Dos Anjos got hurt. We saw that with Aldo as well. So when McGregor was like, I don't care who I fight, put whoever in front of me and I'll fight them. And the fact that McGregor had to go up from 145 to 170, I thought was going to be a huge, it's a monstrous leap. It is. Now, when you saw the weigh-in, because all the trash talking, us fans got what we wanted when it comes to trash talking. We got what we wanted, all right? It was fun. But the weigh-in was really interesting because Conor McGregor looked like he's solid. He looked like a tank. You know what I mean? At 170, I'm thinking to myself, this guy can fight at 170. It doesn't matter if he's at 145, 170. He's so dedicated in his training that he can fight at whatever weight. Okay? That's how I feel. Fight starts, and we see that I figured that this was going to be one of those fights where they're going to just paw each other for a while, and then they're just going to talk in the middle of the ring because Nate Diaz does it all the time, McGregor does it all the time, and it was fine. And then the second round came, and that was just completely different. I think McGregor, he has to understand that he's not fighting smaller guys. He's fighting a guy, if it's not taller, has the same length as him. So you can't walk in there with your hands down like this, with your chin up like this. Like, come on, take a shot. You can't do that. You can't. And, of course, Diaz, his bread and butter is that jab. He's going to throw, strikes from distance. That's what he does. But once he got McGregor up against that cage, and he had him caught, and he's punching him like this, and McGregor, he can't defend it. And he's just taking shot after shot after shot. It softened him up so much that by the time they got off the cage, he was like, okay, what's going on here? And then Diaz caught him. And when Diaz caught him, and he took him to the ground, and he rear naked choked him, and he got the win, you have to give both guys credit. You have to give Diaz credit for having the heart after the first round, the way they were trading, and then second round coming out and winning the way he did. You have to give McGregor, credit for going up so much in weight, okay? Still taking the fight, even though he didn't have to. Taking the fight, and then fighting the way he still did. And he tapped. Yes, he tapped. And this is what I want to talk about real quick. Because there's so many people that are making fun of McGregor, which makes no sense. Okay? Because granted, they say, oh, he's a big mouth. He likes to talk a lot. Yeah, it sells tickets. That's what he's doing. You understand that, right? It's nothing personal. Jesus Christ. But you have people saying that he tapped out and he's a bitch for tapping out. That's what people have been saying online. Let me explain how rear naked chokes happen, okay? I'm going to explain exactly the formality of it. When you are behind a person, whether man or woman, whatever, when you sink in the choke, I'm going to show you. When you sink in the choke, you're sinking it this way, all right? Notice my elbow is down. When you go up here, right, that's where the choke is. You want to be under the neck. Now, mind you, when McGregor was trying to fight off Diaz, he had what? His chin down like this, and he's looking to the side. There's a reason, because that's what they teach you to do to fight off a rear naked choke. Of course, hands pulling down. It's a battle now. You know what I mean? When that is happening, you have to be careful when you're looking to the side, because you're supposed to look away and do that. But you also have to be careful of your opponent who's behind you choking you, because you can turn it into a neck crank. Okay? That will put more pressure. For example, remember when Ronda Rousey was caught in that choke and her neck was turned all the way this way? That's a neck crank on top of the choke. That's very painful. It's like a vice. Same thing with the choke. It's like a vice. When you get this on, what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to slip the hand under here, right? Get it on, slip the hand under, and you keep it here on your arm, all right? That secures how much power you can and leverage you can put up. The reason that they tell you to put the elbow under the chin here is because you're trying to put the person to sleep, okay? You're trying to put them unconscious. If you have the arm here and you're trying to choke, you know what happens there? You can crush someone's throat box, windpipe. You can crush them by pushing up. You don't want to do that unless that's your intention, all right? So you're always trying to keep it here. Once you lock it in, right? Once you lock it in, because the hand here goes behind the head. Here goes behind the head. If someone's trying to fight, you can always pull their hair or pull back or grab their nose, push back here, all right? It's to get the choke. Mind you, like I said, when Diaz did it, when he was fighting off, he actually punched him, and then it went up, and then he got the choke in, okay? Once you have this set up, right, and you have it all cinched in, most people, you have to understand, the human body is not used to being choked. So if you have that cinched in right there, they may tap right there. But this is what you do. And anybody who's done any rear naked chokes, they will tell you. This is jiu-jitsu or choking 101. However you want to say it. You get the choke in, right? You put the hand up behind here. You know all you do? This is what you do. When you have the choke in, this is what you do. All you do is shrug your shoulders. That's it. That's all it takes. It closes up so quick. It's like a vice on your throat. It only takes a second. It doesn't take a matter of seconds. A second. You will realize it. You will feel everything from here all the way back up here. It's almost like, yeah, you will feel every organ. You will feel everything closing off in your throat. So yeah, counter tapping was smart. But when you hear these idiots talk about, well, he shouldn't have tapped, he's a bitch for tapping, he had no choice. He is caught. That is it. This is why so many people, this is why people in MMA, you say, oh, well, you know, MMA guys lose all the time. Yeah, because all it takes is a second to get caught with a submission, and that's it. You're done. You tap. That's what you do. That's what you're trained to do. It doesn't matter if it's on a leg or an arm. Once you have the right technical setup, and you have it right, and you got it around here, and you're locked in, and it's behind here, and all you got to do is this, that's it. That's all it takes. It's either you tap, or you go unconscious. It's not hard. Okay? But it seems like a lot of people don't understand that. And then afterwards, because, you know, Conor McGregor had said, you know, he's the best pound per pound in UFC. He said that because, of course, he's starting to sell tickets. But we saw so many fighters trying to make fun of him. John Jones and Demetrius Johnson both made fun of him because of it. And here's the thing, all right? John Jones, you were the last person to have any type of talk when it comes to being pound for pound. Because how many times have people said to you, you've already, you know, dominated this division, you need to move up to heavyweight. And you refused, right? Conor McGregor dominated the 145 division, moved up to 155. His guy got hurt, moved up to 170. He took the shot. No one wants to see it that way, though. You know how hard that is to do in a short amount of time? Okay, whatever. But people don't understand it. And as I said, this is where you have these casual fans who just talk just to talk because they don't understand, okay? You also have to understand that Demetrius Johnson, you came out and talked, but you're the same guy who was ducking TJ Dillashaw for a long time. Dillashaw said himself, he was like, they offered him a fight with Dillashaw if you know, Demetrius fought him, $2 million. $2 million. Wouldn't take the fight because he didn't want to fight Dillashaw. For these guys to talk about Conor McGregor, who, I don't want to say is just fearless, but to go up such a massive amount of weight in such a short time, take the fight, lose, and still say he's the best pound for pound, okay? When you guys are afraid to even move up one division after you pretty much dominate your divisions, you have no right to talk at all. I understand everyone is looking to make fun of Conor McGregor due to the fact that how much he talks. But you've got to be kidding me. It's time for some reflection. It is. Besides, John Jones, given what you've done in the past, as of late, because you know we got this fight coming up with Cormier, given what's been going on with the drug issue and the hit and run and all that, you shouldn't be saying anything at all. At all. I didn't have a problem with John Jones when he had his, his stare down with Cormier not too long ago, and Cormier had the title, and John Jones brought the original title. I'm for that. I can understand it because you never lost the title. That is acceptable as far as I'm concerned, okay? But you trying to talk and trying to make fun of Conor McGregor, that's absolutely wrong. Absolutely. Same thing with Johnson. It's absolutely wrong. Like I said, when you guys are done with your divisions and you move up in weight, then y'all can talk. All right? That's how I feel. Conor McGregor did nothing wrong. He went out there, he put on a line, he lost. It happens. All right? He got caught with the choke. Happens to every other fighter. Does it not? Okay. I guarantee you, all these people who are still talking, you lost, guess what? They're going to tune in for his next fight as well. That's what happens. Conor McGregor is still getting paid. He's still a big commodity in the UFC. And I don't want to feel like I'm defending him, but you have to understand the technical aspects of that fight when it comes to tapping to a rear naked choke. And it seems like a lot of people don't understand how it's actually done. You have, like I said, if you've never been in that situation, because they'll teach you, when you're learning this stuff, they will have you just stand there and have a guy come behind you and choke you so that you know how it feels. You know what I mean? At maximum pressure, so you know how it feels. And understand, when a guy is standing up, even if he's taller than you, okay, you kick the knee in so that you bring him down to your level, which gives you even more leverage to choke him, and then you can, if you want to, you can fall backwards and, put your legs around him. You have to understand there is so much, it's a science, it's human chess when it comes to submission work and groundwork. Anyone who's done this stuff will tell you that. It's very disrespectful to see fans who say that they love this sport and don't know shit about it. You know what I mean? And they're just talking, like, stop. You know what I mean? It's one thing if he got KO'd or something, he left himself wide open. I mean, like I said, the guy was walking around with his hands down. He didn't get KO'd. If he got KO'd by that thing, he would say, you got knocked out, you should have kept your guard up, blah, blah, blah. But the fact that he got choked out on a technical submission, and a lot of people like to say, well, this happens to a lot of people. A rear naked choke, a lot of people fall victim to it, yes. Because when you're scrambling and you're sprawling and you're getting punched, a lot of guys, they tell you in jiu-jitsu, when they front mount you, okay? I don't know if y'all can hear the helicopter, so I had to speak up a little bit louder. When they front mount you, they teach you how to half guard so that you don't give up full mount. Okay? When you half guard, you turn in this way because you're supposed to turn towards them so that you can escape and sweep. Those who know what I'm talking right now is real technical jiu-jitsu right now. When when you got the half guard in and then you try to sweep, unless they go from side mount, and then they go into knee mount, and then they go into full mount. Also, we can go into deep guards. We can talk about X guards and X mounts. Like, there's so much shit to jiu-jitsu. Y'all don't understand. Like I said, the average fan doesn't understand. I'm going to say y'all because I'm sure there's some of you that do practice this stuff as well. So you know what I'm talking about, all right? I may have botched a couple things here and there because I'm just on a roll. But you have to understand that when a guy is turned in on half guard, all right? And the guy's, over top of you, you're trying to sweep. And when you're turned this way, in MMA, when they're punching you and everything, your body don't take that. You're like, okay, I'm getting punched. And that's when you see guys turn and give their backs to their opponent. And when they give their backs to opponents, that's what happens when they go in for the choke. Like I said, it's a science. There's a reason everything is done for a specific reason. And if you haven't learned that, if you haven't really, like I said, if you haven't practiced it, it's fine. But if you haven't really gotten to the technical parts of it and see why these guys get choked out so much or stuff like that, yeah, there's a reason. Same reason why you see, when you see star fights, you really don't see many people come out and start throwing spin kicks that much, do you? Right in the beginning, do you? No. Or high kicks to the head really that much, do you? No. It's always what? Leg kicks, right? Low kicks. You want to disable the legs. You want to make them as immobile as possible. Like, there's a fucking science to all this. And it seems like people don't get it. Anyways, I'm done. Like I said, we can talk about it in the comment section for those who want to talk more about technical ability, technical issues, or even in the serious issue about the Champions League or whatever issue. I got to get ready to go because I have jiu-jitsu myself later and boxing as well. So I got stuff to do. I will talk to y'all later. Y'all be safe. I'm out.